Central Valley Regional HR Hotline. My name is Anna Manzano Fairbairn. I'm the digital media and event strategist here at the California Employers Association. Before we get into today's official training, just a couple details to go over with you. So as you see, your audio is muted for today's presentation, but there are going to be lots of opportunities to engage during today's training, and we really want to encourage you to do so. There's going to be a couple polls, and Jessica will have a couple prompts for us, so we really hope that you stay engaged today. If you have any questions about the content, you can enter those into the chat box at any time, and we'll try to address them as we go. I'll be here the whole time helping out. So any questions you have, we'll make sure that we get addressed. Handouts for this training were sent out in yesterday's reminder email, but I'm also going to drop those into the chat box shortly. So in the chat box, once you see that PDF pop up, if you just click on the icon or the name of the file, that'll download locally to your drive. And if you have any issues with accessing that PDF, just go ahead and ping me in the chat, and I'm more than happy to help you get that PDF of today's presentation. Last but not least, we do have a survey. So at the end of today's training, you'll see a slide pop up with a QR code. You can scan that with your phone, or at the end, once you close out of Zoom, you'll see a browser window pop up asking you to opt into the survey, which we hope you will. So you can choose your own adventure if you want to do it on your mobile device or on the computer, but we really hope that you do provide us with some feedback at the end. It generally takes less than a minute. It's only 5 questions, but the feedback that you share with us, we then share with our partners over at the Central Valley Hotline. And we just use your feedback to make sure that we are meeting and hopefully exceeding your expectations with trainings like this, as well as our entire suite of resources available to employers like yourself. So now I would like to introduce our amazing trainer today. We are fortunate to have Jessica Rivera, who is our training and coaching director, here to lead us. And Jessica, it's all yours.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome everybody. Pleasure to be with everyone today. And thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule during a busy holiday season to join us today. Looking forward to spending the next hour with you. And again, I want to give credit to the Central Valley counties and Stanislaus County for funding all of this for us. And take advantage of this hotline. If you have a human resources question around compliance or anything that has to do with your folks, don't hesitate to call the hotline number. We have subject matter experts who are available to help you, and this is at no cost to you. So please, we encourage you to take advantage of this. Who are we? As Anna was saying, California Employers Association. We're an organization who provides human resources services and solutions to companies throughout the state of California, and also companies outside of California who have a presence. They have employees here in California. And as I mentioned, we have subject matter experts on site ready to support and assist you. And then also our attorneys make us say that we aren't attorneys. We don't provide legal advice, yet we do provide you guidance. And if you call us with a question that we can help you with, we certainly can provide you that guidance and those resources. Yet if we find in our conversation you have a need for legal counsel, we'll let you know that also. So with that in mind, what we're going to talk about today, as we think about skills for the future, what we'll talk about are some trends for employers, some things that we're still seeing moving into 2025, which I can't believe is already here, right around the corner. Flexibility and connection with employees, why it matters. Finding talent. I still hear from employers every day, finding talent in today's market is hard, good talent. And then just to touch a little bit on artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, because that came upon us last year, late last year, has impacted us this year and continues to impact us moving forward. With that in mind, no question that we have faced so many changes. When we think about 2023 and this year too, we have been faced with so many different phases of change. You as leaders, whether you're a leader of one or a leader of a team or a company, you have been asked to reimagine really every aspect of your leadership, your culture, what you're doing, whether it's dictated by the outside landscape or inside in your organization. And we expect with all that's been happening, this was an election year, new changes into 2025 in California, new laws that are coming into play too. They'll continue in 2025 and even beyond. So our goal today is really just to talk about some of those things to keep in mind, asking yourself those questions. Are we ready for this? Are there things we need to do? as we move into 2025. Because as our motto for 2025 is thrive in 25, we also want you to thrive in 2025. So these are some future work trends that were outlined back in January of 2024, and they were hot off the press when we talked about these. And some of these are still very much in play and will continue to be, but these are those things that will factor into the workforce and your talent decisions over not just the next year, but probably over the next 5 years. And these are some trends that you'll want to take a look at too for yourself and for your company. So I'm not going to go through every single one, but the ones that will really impact us the most. The first one is that cost of work crisis reaches that breaking point. And then what this means is that employees factor in now the cost for them to actually come into the office. And for those who have been working remotely for quite some time, we're hearing it about the federal government right now, employees not wanting to come back into the offices in DC. But we're finding that that cost for employees to come back into work, that's something they're considering, not just your existing employees, but prospective employees coming into your workplace when you're hiring. So keep it in mind, your flexibility as an organization. People think that as you go to number 3, 4-day work weeks go from radical to routine. A lot of recruiting consulting that I do, a lot of prospects are asking, do you have a 4-day work week? Do I can I work remotely? They're not just asking, sometimes they're demanding, those are their expectations. So keeping that in mind as we move into 2025. And then going back to number 2, which is AI creates, not diminishes workforce opportunities. I'm going to speak a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but something that we know for a fact is not going to go away. There's a whole lot of talk about it. There's a whole lot of talk about how we're going to manage it as leaders and organizations, having guidelines around it, all of those things. But that's something that will continue to become a topic of conversation and a need for us to be aware of and to work with in 2025. Number 4, employee conflict resolution skills. Employers tell us time and time again 2 things. Communication skills are so imperative in the workplace today, as well as being able to deal with conflict in a healthy way. And because many of us may not have been trained in handling conflict, we may go into silence or shut down or go to extremes when there's conflicts. Training, teaching, showing our employees how you deal with situations in a healthy way when you're finding that you find yourself in conflict with the customer, with an employee, with their supervisor. But those are some skills that are going to continue to be extremely important. And I'm not saying it's easy. We've seen in the past year, even at the very highest levels of positions, not all people know how to deal with conflict for a number of reasons. So it's a skill we want to continue to grow in ourselves and with our employees. Also, if you take a look at number 6, skills overtake degrees. Excuse me. And this is something that really came about this year, where companies are saying, we are seeing that if somebody comes in with 5 years of experience and they don't have that college degree, we have to seriously consider them, because the well is not as full as it used to be of qualified candidates. And many of you have probably already done this. You've looked at this, either 4 years of experience or a college degree with an emphasis in this field. But this is something that we're going to see employers start to look at even more carefully in 2025, because that pool of qualified candidates is tough to find sometimes. Also, if you take a look at number 8, DEA got a lot of attention this past year. It's not going to disappear, but it's going to be embedded in the way that we work. Like with everything, if something goes to an extreme, it gets a bad rap. If we don't do enough, we have issues. But it will continue to be something that employers look at, yet we may not see as many resources to it that we have in the past, because it needs to become more of a way that we work in our work culture. And then also the last thing, number 9, where it talks about career stereotypes, we think about what that needs to look like. What is actually a career stereotype when we look at what a position should be, With workforce change, we're seeing fewer paths, steps to grow into. A lot of organizations have flattened over the years. So looking at what I expect to be, how long it may take me, I may not have as many positions from here to here to be able to jump in and move, along the way to different roles. So keep it in mind, we're rethinking, what are careers looking like? What should they look like? What does a company career path look like in today's world versus years ago? And then what employers have told us that they need beyond 2024, they need leaders. They need leaders who are able to lead through change, leaders who are able to resolve conflicts, inspire, motivate, and yes, still get the job done. Communication, I mentioned that earlier. Customer service skills, so important when we work with our clients, our customers. Leadership skills. Many of us have been leaders for a long time. Some of us have received considerable training in leadership. Some of us were put in a role and we learned from our managers from the past and then the ones that we had after that. And so thinking about what kind of skills are needed and what's needed for today for 2025. As you take a look at the others, they shouldn't be a surprise. Teamwork continues to be extremely important. And even though this was linked in 2023, everything we've seen this year continues into 2025 and beyond of these skills. So if you recall, the slide that I showed you with 9 trends, this is the most current research 6 months later. And what Gartner has found in their survey of human resources top leaders in organizations is that leader and manager development remains the #1 priority for 2025. And this is the 3rd consecutive year that they're saying we still need this, because what they're finding is that many of the leaders today in the workplace, they are either overwhelmed, they haven't been trained, they don't feel they're prepared for what they're going to need in the future with the changes coming on board. So that continues to be extremely important as we move into 2025. Additional trends to think about and to consider. And I know I'm giving you a lot of information. You do have the handouts, so you can go back and refer to those. But again, what I'm sharing is really to give you some thinking, some time just to think about these things. How are we looking at our company? Do we have an opportunity? Even if you took one piece of this information today and ran with it, it'll have been worth it. So when you look at those additional trends, if you go to number 2 on organizational culture, what's really interesting about this on the culture is that a lot of companies actually, less than 1 in 3 reported, they're not really sure. They don't have that clear vision for the company, for what culture should be, what they want. And then also 57% of folks who responded said that managers fail to enforce their culture in the organization for their teams. And so when we think about our organizational culture and what it is, what it has been, what it is today, what we need for the future, this is something that you want to continue to talk about, embedding the culture in the day-to-day work, fostering that connection with your employees. Because if you can facilitate this as a leader, as a team player, our culture really is who we are, our behaviors, how we treat each other, what our guiding principles are with each other, what we value. And we want to make sure that that's something that's embedded in our organization. And you'll see a little bit later why it's so important to have that, to know it, to talk about it when you're recruiting new talent. Also, when we think about strategic workforce planning, as you think about this, is your strategic workforce planning just limited to headcount? Do I have enough people? Are we staffed appropriately? Versus really thinking strategically about how we need to break out and look at our workforce. Do we have people that we're preparing for next positions of authority, responsibility? Are we looking at growing people where they're planted to prepare them for those next positions, even if it may not happen for a couple of years? But truly looking at your workforce, in addition to some of the AI work that I'll talk about later too, to make sure that we're staffed, we're prepared for the future, not just with bringing new talent on board, but working with our existing staff. And then also change management. Need I say more? When we think about change management, all the changes, all the things we've had to adapt to, adjust to, be flexible about, employers are telling us, employees are telling us, they're really fatigued from change. And 74% of employees said that managers aren't equipped to lead change. And one of the things just to think about if you're making some significant changes next year is prepare your managers. If managers aren't comfortable with the change, it's going to be hard for them to lead people to do that. And a couple of examples that I think of is some organizations will announce there's going to be layoffs, yet they want their managers to keep people inspired, doing their work, being productive, and they don't tell their managers anything. So sometimes managers are working in the gray. They don't have a clear picture either. So as much as you can do if you're going through significant changes is prepare your leaders to lead that change for you. And if you're a leader who's part of a team of leaders, bring that up, talk about it. We do a lot of training around change management at CEA because it's been so frequent over the past few years. And then lastly, good old technology. And there's some things with human resources technology that are coming about. AI is part of that. ChatGPT can assist with some of those things too. So we want to think about using technology beyond automation and efficiencies, but how do we use it to enable our business value, to identify potential value from artificial intelligence and use its capabilities to help us do that. So thinking about it just from an efficiency standpoint, but maybe a little bit further, and that means we have to be open to it also. With that in mind, what employees have told us and employers have shared also, some of the challenges that they're experiencing are all of these listed here. And these are still pretty current. And when you think about managing the remote hybrid workforce, we're getting better at that. We really are. Using technology, we've been involved with that for so long. We're continuing to grow into it and adapt. A big one is, though, the increased exposure to and the use of AI, staff shortages, and finding qualified candidates. I hear this time and time again from employers, and not to point out any generation in particular, but our youngest generation, and people said a lot of things about us when we were at that age too. If we're from another generation, is we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can for people coming into our company, especially our youngest generation, to equip them to be successful. Employee relations issues. We want to make sure that if we can, I talked earlier about communications and conflict resolution. If we can work with our employees to be able to communicate, we know 73% of issues that happen in the workplace are as a result of employee communications or miscommunications. If we could help people get better at this and grow their skills, not only will that prevent having a lot of avoidable conflict, but also bigger things which can lead to lawsuits when you have harassment or bullying or things of that nature. So when you think about things that you've shared, I'm curious, and feel free to put it in the chat. Are these issues for you, all of the above, or is there something else that you're finding too that's continuing to be a challenge for you? Please feel free to put that in the chat box if you'd like. What employees want at work, what they're saying they need at work, people first. And this really hasn't changed that much in the past few years, folks. It really hasn't. Yet it continues to be something that I hear from prospects, people who want to come to an organization. They want to know what your culture is. They want to know what you value. They want to know what people value, what the company in general values, what the values are. Are they aligned with theirs? I have had people that I've consulted with, that I've worked with employers and candidates have said that's just not the culture that I can work with. I don't sense that it's a people first, or they care enough about their employees. Emotional intelligence. Uh, Employees want a leader who they can count on, who they know is going to be consistent, equitable, fair with them. And I don't have to worry if you're having a bad day, a good day. I just know that if I come to you, whether it's the good, the bad, or the ugly, with information, that I can count on you being able to be consistent with me. I don't want to be afraid to come to you or hide things from you because I know how you react to things, type thing. Employees want purpose. They want meaning in their work. And this is important to keep in mind even in 2025, because with some of the changes we're going to hear about, some of the things we know are coming, people need to know they're making a difference, that they have that meaningful work. If we don't connect, if we don't pay attention, if we don't recognize the work that they do, they're going to question, am I really making a difference here? So keeping that in mind in terms of recognition in your company. Well-being continues to be important. Is a company committed to my health, my well-being? And I always coach employers that if you have great benefits, oh my gosh, when you're posting for a job, make sure you mention that. Some of the benefits I've seen with employers I've worked with are fabulous, and they don't promote it. But the same thing in your own company too. If you've got some great things with your benefits, we as employees need to be reminded about that, because sometimes we forget. It's pretty darn great here in terms of things that are offered at our company. And then I've already talked about DEI, and then also professional development and growth. Employees want to grow. They want to know that they're moving in a forward direction. What are we doing to make sure they feel that way? And even if you don't have positions available, find ways to expand their skills where they are. Give them that opportunity to get exposure in your company and to do different things. And these are just some stats to think about on professional growth and why they're important. And just a couple of things. People want coaches today, not bosses. They want to know that they have someone they can talk to that cares about their growth, their development, their success at the company. And if employees have a coaching, if employees work in a company that has a coaching culture, they're highly engaged. Engagement means I'm loyal, I'm committed, I'm dedicated to my company. I go above and beyond. So when we think about a coaching culture, employees tell us that when they have that, when you as a leader, when your leader is a coach to you, it increases your loyalty, your dedication, and your commitment. And then also 80% of employees who have received coaching in the past, they experience positive impacts. So not only you as a coach, but in some cases, managers, leaders could use some coaching too. And whether it's through an external source or within your company, coaching can really make a difference in a world that continually changes and offers us quite a few opportunities and challenges. I want to go to your current employees, and I want to talk a little bit about why people tend to go job hunting, why they're starting to look or they will look at another company. And this is based off of some of McKinsey's work. The greater pay, more hours, if they're working part-time, we understand some of that, but better career opportunities. In our own company, are we finding ways to demonstrate, to add that value, to paint that picture for our employees for the future? Are we showing them, demonstrating that there are opportunities at our company? And it doesn't always have to be a position. It can be other things that you can add to their roles, increasing their pay with additional responsibilities, or doing some things that can really make them feel like they're expanding their skills and their knowledge and their experience as professionals. And then, of course, the one that we hear a lot is flexible working arrangements, being flexible as much as we can. And if you take a look at that bottom note, flexibility was the top reason that a lot of employees accepted new jobs in the past few years after the pandemic. They needed it, they required it, and that's going to be something that's going to continue moving forward. Even though a lot of people are coming back to work, maybe at a staggered schedule or flexible days or whatever it is, that'll continue to be very important to employees. So let's take a quick look at these. When we embrace flexible work, and these are some statistics when we look at how employees feel, how they're embracing this flexible work. And it's important to employees. So even if you can't do everything, which is okay, none of us can, what are you able to offer? What are you able to do that makes people feel that you are putting their well-being, on par with everything else at the company? And just knowing that employees want it, they would welcome it, they would embrace it. And sometimes it takes a while to get there, but having those discussions will not hurt. And then some things from Gallup. I'm talking about remote, I'm talking about hybrid, but there are some advantages for people who come into the office. Excuse me. People want that connection. We're social creatures. So when we're able to come into the office, we can enhance our relationships with each other. I can break bread with you, have lunch with you, have coffee with you, but being able to have that interpersonal interaction, those hallway chats, in-person people meetings, the laughter that we don't always get when we're doing it by phone or we're doing it via Zoom or Teams or any other virtual platform. And so there is a business case too for bringing people into the office and allowing them to connect and be engaged. People do find that it really makes a difference in how they feel about the company too. And they produce higher quality work. Again, so like I said, finding ways to do that and offering those opportunities to do that can be really valuable. Collaboration. It's really interesting when we're on site how we can get a lot of work done. And what I mean by that is I was just in my office. I normally work remotely, but I was in my office this week. And I was able to handle 6 or 7 things very quickly while I was in my office with others because we had a big meeting with several departments. Being able to handle things, so the collaboration, the exchange of ideas, when you're in person, I can see if you like what I'm talking about by your body language, your facial expression. I can see all of that. I can sense it. So there's a lot going around with collaboration when you're on site. And plus, not to mention, you can get a lot done. Plus the creativity that goes with it too, throwing out ideas, bouncing off ideas with each other. And then of course, it helps with the culture. It really helps to remember why I wanted to work for this company, why I enjoy working for this company. Because when I'm in the office, when we're together as a team, being together really does create that feeling, that sense that I belong, that I'm part of this organization, and that I get to know people even better and strengthen relationships. So keeping in mind, there's no perfect answer to our environment, and there's advantages to both. But let's not forget on the on-site, there's a lot of benefits to that too. And something you might want to talk about with your folks also if you are bringing them back in on more days than what they have been working before. Excuse me. And some benefits though on the hybrid side too. These are interesting because again, employees embrace it. They like it. You can attract highly skilled employees when you're able to have a hybrid work model or remote. I will say those surveys are showing us today that our youngest generation, Generation Z, those born after the year 2000, they like the connection. They like the collaboration. They enjoy being on site. They want to be with their coworkers. So we're finding in some cases that that's something that's very welcomed versus others who would really like that opportunity to have hybrid. And again, no wrong or right answer because depending on the type of work that we do, some of us have no choice. You have to be there physically present. Some of us do have a choice. So there's no wrong or right for anyone, but just some things to consider as you navigate into 2025. One thing, whether you offer remote, hybrid, traditional on-site, keeping in mind how important it is to have frequent communications. Can't say it enough. We cannot over communicate. There's no such thing to over communicate as leaders. So, meeting people where they are. And what I mean by that is making sure that we stay connected with people, we stay connected with people, that we, um, even just how's it going, working well, what worked well this past month, what didn't. Scheduling those one-on-one meetings with your team, staying close to them, having the weekly staff meetings, doing it quarterly in person if needed. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, so I have this cough. So keeping that in mind. And then also recruiting trends. I was talking earlier about recruiting, getting the attention of qualified candidates, being able to get that top talent. And these are just some things to keep in mind as you look at your staffing needs next year. Virtual recruiting continuing, that's going to continue to stay for us. Looking at how am I going to recruit? Do I need to get more creative? Looking at your job postings as an advertisement for your company. I still, as you know, when I consult, I still go online to see what jobs are out there and to see how companies post job ads. And I can't tell you how many companies I see, it's all about them in their job ads, not about the candidate. You want to be able to speak to the candidate, you want to be able to get their interest, and even more importantly, be compelling and answering that question for them. Why do I want to work for this company? So keeping your job postings in mind, do they need to be zhuzhed up? Do they need to be enhanced? And if you have a marketing department, I encourage you to ask marketing to help you with that. Signing bonuses continue to be important. Maximizing referrals. Use your employees as recruiters for you. They're not going to recommend just anyone to you. And if they recommend a friend or an acquaintance, they're not going to just, again, recommend someone they don't know. They're going to recommend someone because that's their name on on that person. That's their reputation. And then also looking amongst your staff. Gosh, if I know I'm going to need this position next year and it's hard to find this type of skill set, is there someone I can grow into that position? Maybe it's a year to grow them into it, but thinking about your own talent. One of the saddest statistics I've heard is that we only use about 20% of an employee's potential. Can you imagine if we use 30, 40, 50, some of the magic that could happen? And then, of course, artificial intelligence using ATS systems to take a look, screen those for you. The only caution I have there is making sure, knowing AI gathers information. They don't have a mind of their own in the sense that they see things that humans see. So you always want to have a second look by a human, especially if resumes come in, because it's always not black and white. Sometimes you as a leader are going to see something in that resume that AI may dismiss because they don't have every qualification, but you'll see something that you're going to say, huh, that's a maybe, that's someone I want to talk to. And some recruiting pain points that we hear a lot about is what employers say. I feel like I'm just in a sea of job ads. No one sees my ad. I've already talked about that. You want to make sure that it's compelling. Following up to increase candidates' response rates, making sure that your recruiters are on top of things, or whoever's recruiting for you has that bandwidth to stay on top of it, because it's a lot of work. Recruiting is not what it used to be. You have to be part salesperson, part strategist, part project manager. I can go on and on, but it's not what it used to be. And it requires a lot of skills because you're trying to find that right person. And you're also trying to juggle sometimes other work. Also, candidates declining job offers or just ghosting us. I've heard this time and time again. Where did this candidate go? I mean, they were excited about this job. We connected, now they've just they're not responding to me. I'm setting time up to interview and prepare for that interview with candidates, because remember how a candidate shows up too when they show up at your place of business, whether it's virtual or on site, are you prepared as a hiring manager? Are you ready to talk with them? Have you looked at everything? Do I want to work for this manager? If they're unorganized, all over the place, I'm not sure as a candidate that it's going to be a good fit for me. So thinking about those things, because these are pain points for employers that we hear about. And then also, how do I engage with people online? Sometimes we want to just use the phone or just set up a Zoom meeting and actually meet them. So when you think about skills that you need for 2025, I want to do just a quick poll with you if I could. If you would just answer this for me, what skills are you going to need in 2025? Please take a moment and answer that for me if you would. Okay, I'll give everyone just another few seconds. All right, let's take a look. Well, yeah, all of the above. Yeah, yeah. And so if you're saying that we in our company need all of these skills, 100% are saying this, not just one or two things. We need all of these skills. You can imagine what the competition must be. If you're saying it, other companies need the same thing. So some of the things as we talk about recruiting, as we talk about what employees need, as we talk about your existing employees and prospective employees, some of these things can be really helpful as you strategize for 2025. And some just successful recruiting tips that I really believe can make a difference for you. I've touched on them a bit already. Highlight your company culture. Talk about your people. Talk about the team they're going to work on. Talk about what you value in your company. Talk about what your mission is, what is most important to you as an organization. This is an advertisement for your company, and start strong on your ads. Hit them with the key points as soon as you can. Don't do the vanilla job postings because we've always done them. People are going to swipe left or swipe right if they see something that looks like everything else. You want to get their attention. Be realistic in your job descriptions. I have seen some job descriptions that look like War and Peace. Oh my gosh, they are so long and so overwhelming that some candidates say they want all this, and it overwhelms candidates. Also in your ad, be really clear on what your required qualifications are and what your preferred ones are. Because if you have so many required ones, and I get that some are absolutely required and very few preferred, you may scare people off. So really think through, what do I have to have? What would be a nice to have? Speed up your hiring process. Top talent only stays on the market for 10 days. Very top talent. So know that they're not just looking at you, they're looking at several other companies. Who's going to get to me first? Who's going to show me that they're really serious about me? Making sure that you speed up your hiring process. Still do it in a compliant way, but people are not going to wait weeks for you. Also, the experience for a candidate. Everything matters. Your job ad is your first introduction to that candidate. So if they follow up with you, or if you are taking too long to look at their resume, chances are they may be off to several other companies already. So their experience from start to finish, when you bring them in for an interview, are you ready? When you do a virtual interview, is everyone there at the panel if you have a panel? Do you have questions prepared already for this candidate? Are you familiar with their resume? Have you looked at what they said in their cover letter if they did one? All of those things are important to a candidate, because some candidates can be very dismissive if they've got skills that they know you need, and so do other companies. Reconnect with past candidates. And I've done this a lot. I've been very successful. I always stay connected with really good candidates when I've done recruiting for companies. And I said, gosh, we can only pick one person, but you have a lot of skills. Can we still stay connected? Can I get back with you? That first hire doesn't always work. And if it doesn't work, you haven't burned any bridges, and that candidate still may be available. So stay connected with pause candidates. Don't be afraid to do that. And let them know that I'd like to keep you in mind for other opportunities. And this is my favorite, the contact trifecta when recruiting is, one of the things that's really important to me when I recruit top talent, and I've recruited all the way to the CEO level, is how responsive people are, because that tells me a lot about them and their seriousness about a job. So the contact trifecta is when I get a resume that looks pretty good, I will call them. If I can't reach them, leave them a message. I will text them and let them know who I am, ask them to call me. I will also email them and ask them to get back with me so we can do a quick phone interview or have a phone call. If I've done all three of those, my success rate in hearing back from a really good candidate is in the 90th percentile. And those 10% that haven't gotten back with me or have not replied to me after 3 attempts that I've done to reach them, they're probably not people that I want. Responsiveness is incredibly important to recruiters. So that should be something too, is making sure your recruiters, your hiring managers are using all methods to try to reach out to someone. And then interviews, continuing to do them virtually, as I mentioned, on site, making sure that people update their skills on Zoom too. So again, you're representing your company. If you're doing it virtually, you want to come across as someone who really has it going on. You know what you're doing, you're professional, your company's professional as you interview candidates. And sometimes we have recorded one-way interviews. Some companies use that. We've heard about those. You'll ask questions, ask the candidate to respond to them. There's no human interaction. And sometimes, as I mentioned before, some of the platforms that will screen in and screen out candidates for you, or we call them robot recruiters. I want to touch on for just a few moments about artificial intelligence and specifically about ChatGPT. What is it? Why should I care? It's been around since late 2023. Yet when I do training on this, I still find that about 50% of people who attend the workshops on this topic haven't yet used it. And it really does use some deep learning techniques to generate a conversational response for you. And it's free. If you go to ChatGPT online, it's free. But what's incredible about it is it really does change the way we interact with technology. I can go on to ChatGPT and say, give me 3 ideas for X or for this, and they will automatically pop up with 3 ideas. And I can say, I don't like those ideas, give me 3 more. And you don't have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. And then they'll give you 3 more. But what's even more fascinating about this, because again, it doesn't have its own ideas, it gathers everything from the internet. What's fascinating is ChatGPT, when it was launched, 1 million users in 5 days, and then believe it or not, 100 million users in 2 months. So it's something that's being used, and it continues to get more and more traction, more and more attention, a lot of attention, but it's something that's here to stay. So I encourage you, if you haven't tried it, play with it. It'll even give you a recipe if you want a recipe. And this just gives you an idea of how people are using it at work, what they find it most useful for. And this was back in 2023 when it first launched. But as I talk with people, things are still pretty similar. But if you look at it, most of it's for writing content. Some of it you can ask it to prioritize, to brainstorm for you, to help you make a decision. But here's the caution on ChatGPT. Everything you put into it becomes public domain. So your folks, if you use it, you always want to make sure that you have no proprietary information that you enter into ChatGPT. So, we've created in our own company, guiding principles or rules on people who use ChatGPT for work to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a tough situation by sharing confidential information or putting proprietary information into ChatGPT. So you want to make it general, and you're not going to use this as, they give you this information and you exactly copy it from what they say. You're going to make it your own. You may take 1 or 2 tips from what they give you and then do your own work around that, because you want it to be your work, not plagiarized work. And that's a lot of things that we're hearing on some of the legal challenges with it right now too. So a couple of things when we think about it for HR, human resources, for those of you who do a leader or you have an HR specific role, can be used a lot for recruiting and hiring, help you with some recruiting strategies, give you some ideas. Gosh, what are some of the top job boards right now? What are the most successful job boards? You can ask it that question. It may say, hey, go to ZipRecruiter. It's got a higher satisfaction rate than Indeed does. It can give you ideas on employee engagement. So for example, if I'm trying to, as a leader, think of creative ways to increase engagement for my employees, I want them to stay with me, recognition, reward programs, I can go in and ask that question. Please give me 10 ideas to enhance our recognition program for my company. See, again, very general. You're not putting in proprietary information. You're asking it questions. And if you don't like what it gives you, ask it to be more specific. Ask it to give you more ideas. But it can give you some great ideas. And also, I'm going to plan an event, a team building event, and we're going to do this. Give me an agenda for it. I mean, there's just, the sky's the limit on things you can ask it. On performance management, it may give you some, you may ask it to give you some guidance on performance management. Give me a performance management template. Give me something I can use to, be able to do an effective performance review. You can ask it to give you some samples of that. There are some companies that don't do performance management. They don't do evaluations. Some may be new to it. Some may want to tweak it a little bit. But things like that, you can ask it to assist you with. Now, here's a caution on this one, compliance and policies. You can ask ChatGPT, you can go in and say, what's the minimum wage in California? And it'll give you the minimum wage in California. It could be current for 2025 or 2024, or it could not. It's getting better. When it first launched, it was only current up to, I want to say 2021, so it was way behind. But it has become a lot more current. Yet what you want to know is that if you ask, what's the minimum wage in California, depending on a county that you're in, it could be more. And you want to make sure that you go even more specific on something like that too, because it may give you exactly what you asked for, but within counties, minimum wage may vary. So we caution people on compliance and policies. You can check it, ask it, but verify it. Go to another source to verify that. And a great example was my boss, Kim Guzman, who's been the CEO for our company for the past 20 years. I went in when it was early on and asked ChatGPT, who's the CEO and president of our company, CEA? And they gave me someone from more than 20 years ago. Again, it's gotten better, but go ahead and ask it, yet verify, especially on those compliance issues. And these are just some specifics and some ideas, other ways that you can use it moving forward to give you some ideas. I like to think of it as starter dough. If you're baking bread, it's your starter dough. You know what you're going to start with, and you're going to turn it into what you want it to be. But these are some things that AI can help you with, and it can give you some ideas and assist you when you're struggling. Some of us are fabulous editors when we're writing. Some of us are really good at starting with zero and building. So wherever you are in that space, find that way to make it work for you if you are using it. And again, just being mindful of those things that we've talked about earlier. So just a quick question for you, and see what you think, a poll for you, if you would. Should we allow our employees to use ChatGPT at work? So let me ask you that question, if you don't mind. Let's see. If you could answer that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. We should allow them to use ChatGPT at work. True or false? Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. And this is pretty common to what we see when we ask this question. We see, people feel, yeah, I have some people still say, no, we shouldn't allow them to do that. But most of the time, I have people that say, we're not sure. We just don't know. But that not sure is getting less and less than what it was at the beginning when we started talking about this. It used to be about 75% that weren't sure because we didn't know what we didn't know. So as we think about ChatGPT and moving forward with it, again, making it work for you, making sure that you have those boundaries around it too, and get that guidance. And you can call us for that if you have questions around that for your own employees, and that through the hotline, and we can help answer those for you. Excuse me just a moment. For some reason, my presentation decided to go elsewhere. Let's see here. Okay. I swear there's something in the air today. Bear with me. So considerations, just some things to think about with your considerations. Is presenter view showing up, Hannah?
Yeah, at least for me. I know sometimes it
That's
doesn't
okay.
show up for everyone.
Let me just hide
I
it
think
because
it's
it does
the
that.
it's probably like the elf on the shelf, right? It's the elf on the in the Zoom room.
It's doing that right now. Can you believe it? That's okay. We'll be good. Okay, let's see here. All right, we are
We're
good
wrapping
now.
up, but
Thank you, folks, for your patience.
there
There's
we go.
something in the
We got
air or
it.
something in the systems. So some considerations around this as you think about ChatGPT. What are the advantages and limitations for your company? Who should be allowed to use it? Should everybody be allowed to use it? Do you have that policy that I talked about earlier around it? Do you need to develop one? Do you need to have something, at least have the discussion around it? Because you don't want employees to be using it without those guidelines when it comes to company material. Sometimes people just don't think about all the things you have to think about when you put information out there in the public domain. And then trust and verify. As I mentioned earlier, is it just a rough draft? Is it starter dough? Things that you can think about as you use it and put those guidelines around it or policies around it for your own employees. It can be a great benefit. It can be very helpful, making sure that it's used for the right reasons, though. So just some takeaways around ChatGPT. It's a great tool. It's going to cause disruption in our industry. It's just something that it's happening now, will continue to happen. It'll be important for us as leaders to continue to grow with it, to learn from it, and to maintain our policies around it. But something to consider, because like I said, a year ago when I asked the question, hardly anyone had used it. Now you see how many people are using it now. It's going to continue to be part of our lives. Okay, so just wrapping up as we think about what makes employees stay with us, corporate culture. I've talked enough about that. They're job hunting because of the culture. If we show more empathy as employers, as managers, 92% would say they would stay with you. Empathy is looking at things from the point of view of the employee, not just mine as a teammate, as a leader, but really looking at things from an employee's point of view. And a lot of that includes listening, strong listening skills, asking questions, and then also 59% are less likely to look for a new job if they're engaged. And when I talked about engagement, remember those things that we can do, being a coach versus a boss, making sure people have everything they need to get their work done, that they have a leader who cares about them, someone who cares about their growth, their development. All of those things make employees stay with you. As a leader, and I've had employees that I was responsible for up to almost 2,000 at one time in my career, that is something that was always on my mind. Do I have what do I do to keep my people? I don't want them to go anywhere. That was always on my mind as a leader. So I was always thinking, what else do I need to do to keep my good people here? And then, of course, leading with humanity. When we lead with humanity, we think about all of those things that people need from us, what's important to them. They belong to our culture. We have a culture. They see their connection to the company, their success. The company's success is their success, and vice versa. And when we're able to lead that way, we're able to see benefits in all of these areas. And you'll see this time and time again, whether it's through Gallup, McKinsey, Gartner, all of these companies that do these surveys all of the time. And a great book to consider while you're on Christmas holiday or just holiday season is Making Work Human by Eric Mosley and Derek Irvine. Great tips, great suggestions on how we lead with humanity moving forward. So thinking about the future and what we're looking at for all of us next year, we have to be resilient and adaptable. We know that, especially when it comes to technology. promote that learning environment. Be that learner too as a leader. We never stop learning as leaders. We're always growing, we're always evolving. Be supportive when there are challenges that arise for our employees. We all get dealt a bad card. Every one of us has at one time or another. We've all been at, places where, gosh, I just need a little support. Work on the culture. Are there things we need to zhuzh up with our culture, or just get back to who are we as a company? The flexibility as much as you can. I know you have to run your business, but the things that you are able to do, make sure you promote and talk about those. And then, of course, leading with that humanity. People want to know that we care about them, and who doesn't? We all want to know that we're valued at our company and appreciated. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring Anna back up, but I want to again thank Stanislaus County for this hotline, for the support that you receive. And we encourage you, use the hotline. We can assist you, no cost to you, but also use them for other things too. So thank you so much. And Anna, I'm going to bring it back to you.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. I know you are feeling under the weather, and I appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise and your energy with us today. Round of applause from everyone for powering through. I do want to drop the codes into the chat for you if you're joining us for continuing education credits. Those are going to be in the chat, and I'll give them to you verbally here. So 689144, SHRM code 24-2V as in Victor, G9R. 24-2VG9R. Again, if you have any issues or you don't know what to do with these codes and you are eligible for recertification, please reach out to us, ceainfo@employers.org. We will be more than happy to guide you on what to do with these codes to receive your recertification credit. Before we get to the survey, I did drop the link in the chat to the next training that's coming up on January 8th. That is our 2025 labor law update. That is a really great training that you're definitely going to want to attend to really make sure that your team is in compliance as we head into the new year. And then, thanks, Jessica. Sorry, I redirected you there. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, we do have a quick survey. Again, it's 5 questions. It generally takes less than a minute to complete. But if you can either take your mobile device and scan that QR code, or wait for us to close out of Zoom here, you'll see a browser window pop up. All you have to do is click opt in. And then again, it just takes less than a minute to complete to share your feedback with us to make sure that we are meeting and hopefully exceeding your expectations with the resources that we provide. So with that, I want to again thank Jessica for sharing her expertise with us today, for guiding us. Thank you all for participating and for joining us live. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully on January 8th. Thank you again to the team behind Central Valley Hotline, and we will see you then. Thank you.